Hey everybody, this morning I want to talk a little bit about requeening a hive, and more specifically when to know a hive needs to be requeened. So as a general rule of thumb, I really recommend everyone requeen one time per year. Usually in April is the ideal time to requeen. Even if a hive looks really good, if you know that queen is a year old, she's going to start failing at any point in time. So in general, every April I try to requeen all of my hives. That being said, there are some signs you can watch for a hive that is failing due to a poor queen. Now, other things can cause a hive to fail, like varroa mites or starvation, etc. But I want to show you guys this hive that we've identified does need a new queen and some signs to look for. The unfortunate thing about waiting to see these signs, that usually means the hive has already declined in strength to the point where they may or may not survive. So you really want to requeen ideally on a schedule every year and get ahead of that so your hive doesn't weaken before they need a new queen. So this particular hive, it's been established for months, and if this was a brand new hive that was recently established, I wouldn't be as concerned. But this is a hive that is 2 or 3 months old, and the bee population still isn't great. I mean, it's not horrible, but you've got, about a half a box full of bees. And there should really be a lot more bees than that after 2 or 3 months of being established. So I'm a little concerned about that. Just overall, I don't have a great bee population. So that's a little concerning. And so the next thing I start looking for is, well, how much brood do I have? And as I was looking through this hive, I noticed that I don't have a lot of brood. I've got some, like on this frame, for example, I see eggs and I see larvae, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of brood. They're not the quantity that I want. And again, I see some scattering of eggs and larvae, but I'm not seeing a lot of it. And then one thing I saw in this frame that concerned me is you can just see they've got brood, but it's not a great brood pattern. There's not a whole lot of it. You can see they've got some kind of scattered brood here. You can see the bees are even raising what I call some supersedure cells here. They're trying to replace their own queen. Now these have larvae in them. If they're empty, it's not a big deal, but these actually have larvae in them, like the bees are trying to replace that queen. And really all the brood in the whole hive looks this way. It's just very spotty on these frames. If you just have 1 or 2 frames spotty like that, no big deal. But when all the frames in the hive are really spotty like this, and the bee population isn't great, that's when I start getting concerned. One thing you always want to check, of course, is to make sure you're feeding the hive properly. A hive that's starving will also have a spotty pattern, and if the varroa mite population is way too high, it can also cause spotty brood. So make sure you're feeding it properly, make sure that they have the varroa mites under control. If those 2 things are okay, then I assume it's a hive that needs to be requeened. So feel free to check out our other videos on how to requeen a hive, but this is a hive that needs to be requeened. You can also check out our other videos on texasbeesupply.com, which talk about how and when to treat for varroa mites and how to feed hives. So come on over to the requeening video and I'll show you guys how to requeen a hive as well.